Today, we're going to unpack an ancient Buddhist text that gives us this incredible metaphor for understanding our own lives. It's essentially a medical diagnosis for the human condition. Let's call it the Buddha's prescription. But let's start with a really simple question. Forget about philosophy for a second and just think about this. What is it that separates a pretty good doctor from a truly great one? Is it just about knowing all the treatments, or is there something deeper to it? So let's really get into this. It turns out an ancient text actually has a super specific answer to that question. And well, it's the key that unlocks this whole powerful idea. Okay, so we're looking at a text called the Sutra of the Physician's Parable, and in it, it lays out this blueprint for the perfect doctor, an expert that it calls the physician king. And believe me, this isn't just any old doctor. This is someone who has mastered the art of healing. So what is it that makes this doctor a king? Well, according to this text, it all comes down to 4 very specific, absolutely essential skills. Let's break them down. First, the physician king knows the illness. They can nail the diagnosis and know exactly which medicine to use. Second, they know the cause. They don't just patch up symptoms, they dig deep and figure out where the sickness actually came from. Third, they know the cure. They've got the skills to apply the treatment and actually get the sickness out of the body. And finally, and this is the real game changer, they know prevention. They can get rid of the root of the problem so that it never, ever comes back. It's this complete 4-step process, right? From diagnosis all the way to permanent wellness. It's a pretty brilliant medical framework, right? But this is where things get really interesting. Because this text, it's not just a manual for ancient doctors. Not at all. Yeah, what's so wild is that this whole story of the physician king is actually an analogy. The sutra is using this really logical, really practical medical model to talk about something way bigger, a totally different kind of sickness and a totally different kind of cure. And then, bam, the text just connects the dots for us. It says that the Buddha, who's called the Tathagata here, is just like this physician king. He shows up not with pills or potions, but with what it calls 4 supreme Dharma medicines. So if the Buddha is the master physician here, what exactly are his medicines? And what's the fundamental illness they're supposed to treat? Well, the answer is right there in his most famous teaching. You see, the text basically says that the Buddha's core teaching is, for all intents and purposes, a medical prescription. He diagnosed the fundamental sickness of life. That universal feeling of stress, of things not being quite right, of suffering. And then he laid out this 4-part treatment plan. We know it as the 4 Noble Truths. And just look at how perfectly this lines up with the doctor's method. Step 1, the truth of suffering. That's the diagnosis. Just admitting, okay, yeah, this satisfaction is a part of life. Step 2, the truth of the origin. That's finding the cause, understanding that our suffering comes from things like craving and attachment. Step 3, the truth of cessation. That's the doctor saying, hey, there's a cure, realizing it's actually possible to stop suffering. And step 4, the truth of the path. Well, that's the prescription itself, the practical steps you take to make sure the sickness is gone for good. So this brings us right to the heart of it all, a literal prescription for suffering. Here it is, laid out plain as day. The physician king diagnoses the illness. The Buddha points to the truth of suffering. The physician finds the cause. The Buddha says the cause is craving. The physician offers a cure. The Buddha says, yes, a cure, a total cessation is possible. And finally, the physician prevents a relapse. The Buddha lays out the path that makes sure it doesn't come back. The big takeaway here is that this isn't about some kind of blind faith. It's a practical, step-by-step framework for working with your own mind. And this is why this ancient story is still so powerful today. It completely reframes our struggles. Our anxiety, our stress, all our dissatisfaction, it's not some personal failing. It's not because we're broken. It's just a treatable condition. And there's a clear, logical path from sickness to health that anyone can follow if they're willing to try the prescription. So that really leaves us with a question to chew on. If you decided to be the physician king of your own life, right now, using the same 4-step method, what illness, what recurring pattern of stress or frustration could you maybe start to diagnose today?